Miga nalla Krista!
The live-action adaptation of Lilo and Stitch arrives in theaters this week and is directed by Dean Fleischer Camp. The original was directed by Dean DeBlois and Chris Sanders, with Chris Sanders even voicing Stitch. And much like the original, this follows the story of an alien who is an experiment built just to destroy without any ounce of goodness in him, and escapes exile from the Galactic Federation and instead lands on Earth in Hawaii, where he meets a girl named Lilo, played by Miyake Aloha, and the two of them strike up a bond as Lilo adopts him as a pet, and hopefully through this he will learn to maybe be good. I actually just watched the original for the first time in like 20 years last night. I haven't seen it since the early 2000s, like when it originally came out, and rewatching it, I forgot just how emotionally impactful a lot of it was. It's surprisingly very deep when it comes to some of the things that it's exploring, and very mature in its tone. And I loved rewatching that. It's a fantastic movie. And I've always really loved Stitch as a character. Just find the guy extremely adorable and very funny. And there's so much creative energy and, just so much to him that he consistently surprises. So going into the live action movie, I was curious to see how they would pull it off, even if my track record with these is usually not great. I don't really love the live action remakes, but I have to say, having seen this one, this is one of the better ones for sure. Now granted, that's a low bar, and if I say that, you're probably thinking, that's not much to cover. But it does work better than most of the live-action remakes, I would say. Mostly because it does retain some of the core aspects of what made the original work, particularly when it comes to the dynamic between Lilo and Stitch. I think Miyake Aloha, who's like 8 years old, is like her first major performance, is wonderful in the movie. She has a lot to carry when it comes to the storytelling because, of course, being the main character, but her relationship with Stitch as the movie goes on is very cute and very funny, and all the moments with them where she's just trying to get Stitch into some kind of control, and the fact that this guy just refuses to listen to orders and will just continuously destroy things as much as he can. I think over here they nailed that aspect of it, and her relationship with her sister Nani is also very nicely done. And Stitch is once again wonderful. Chris Sanders once again does a great job with the voice, and he is very, very funny over here too, and an extremely heartfelt character. I mean, it's hard not to fall in love with Stitch overall. Like, he's just one of those presences that just works every single time. I also like that they bring in some of the musical elements of the original. Like, Lilo is a huge fan of Elvis Presley in the original version. That's something that comes up over here too, because she listens to Elvis quite a bit over here and tries to put that into Stitch as well. And then there's points where you see what Stitch can do, and those are some like I said, one-to-one moments that are recreated. I did like that there's this one trick which I loved in the original with a record player, and if you've seen the movie you know what I'm talking about. That's in this too. And there's also some really fun moments when it comes to making Stitch better, potentially, as Lilo is trying to work on him. And they add a couple of gags in here, which I thought were pretty funny. Like, there's this one bit where he has to return something, and it was kind of funny, like the way that it was edited in. I also thought Sydney Apadong as Nani was really good in the movie, and her relationship with Lilo, much like the original, I thought they did a fairly decent job with. I think there was a very solid connection between her and Miyake Aloha as actors go. And all of those moments, I think, for the most part, are very effective. There is clearly something that is, hanging over them, something that's happened fairly recently, which is making things increasingly difficult. And the movie addresses that, and again, when it comes to getting more serious and emotional with those moments, they do land overall, but I do think they're not as heavy-hitting as the original version. Mostly because I don't feel like they go as deep as the original version. I was a little surprised by that, because for an animated kids movie, when it came to handling those aspects, it was very mature, and there are things over there that I was a little surprised were even in a kids movie. Not so much the case with this one. I feel like this one takes a much more safe route with it. It takes it a little more surface level than the original did, which is kind of surprising to me. So I feel like that's where the movie does suffer. So for all the things that it does adapt fairly nicely, and some of those more heartfelt moments that are in here and the comedic beats, I wish the emotional backbone that it had, the original material, was a little more present in here. I also think that some stuff that they have with side characters isn't quite as great this time around, especially with Jumba and Pleakley. I thought the two of them were fine in the movie overall. Like Zach Galifianakis as Jumba was fine, and Billy Magnussen as Pleakley was very funny, and I actually think he was doing a fairly decent job. But I do think that they've made some changes over here, especially when it comes to Jumba, which I didn't really like as much. And I think that also has to do with some omissions that they've made from the original version of it, especially when it comes to like some characters not being here, like Captain Gantu is not in this version, which I feel like, might be a problem for some people. But the way that this one decides to go about it when it comes to how things play out with certain characters, not as effective. And I do think it kind of loses you as the movie progresses. By the third act of the movie, I actually feel like it had kind of like started to fizzle out quite a bit, because the first 2/3 I was still on board with overall. Yes, it did, move some stuff around, and it did, reshuffle a few things, but there is a consistency overall to the first 2/3 that I feel like gets lost in the last third. It really just becomes a big, CGI fest in a lot of ways, and it's not particularly great CGI. In fact, it's pretty wobbly, except for Stitch throughout. Stitch is very well done, and there are moments where Lilo and Stitch are both very, it's close-up moments, and the CGI is solid. But when it comes to the other alien characters, I feel like it does suffer over there. And overall, it leads to a movie that, again, I do think is one of the better Disney live-action remakes overall, is not as great as it could be. I feel like at the end of the day, if I had to choose down the line for, to show my kid this or the animated version, I'd probably still go for the animated version, because I think that is a stronger version of the movie. Still, I feel like there's enough for kids to enjoy in here, so even when the movie does drop on opening weekend, this one, I feel like it'll be a big success. I feel like families are gonna have a really good time with it. I just wish it went a little further when it came to some things, and it doesn't really go there. Also, I didn't mention this, but Bubbles in this, played by Courtney B. Vance, I liked him. I thought he was fine. They've changed some stuff around with him too, and I think that he could have had a little more to do at times, but yeah, he wasn't too bad over here. I'm gonna give Lilo and Stitch 2025 a 7 out of 10. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, again, compared to some of the other ones, this is definitely better. The bar is not super high. I completely understand that, but it's what it is. Guys, thank you very much as always for watching. Look forward to more videos very, very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe. Sometimes that happens, where the horns go off. And I'll see you guys at the movies.